I am so excited to be joined on the More Than the Music podcast by Mr. and Mrs. Colton Dixon. How you guys doing?
So good.
Wow.
Man, it's awesome to have your wife join us on this episode. Now, often I don't get to talk to the spouse of the artist, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. A little scary, but it should be really good.
Yeah, you never know what they might say. No, we're talking about the songs on the brand new album, Identity. We'll get to know you a little bit more, too. Before we jump into the songs, man, everybody knows you from American Idol Season 11. But let's go back to the beginning. Little tiny Colton Dixon, how music became a part of your life and how this whole thing got started for you.
Yeah, man, I was 8 when I started taking piano lessons. Gave my life to the Lord the year prior to that. And at 13, I was at a piano recital. Was going to play I Can Only Imagine by Mercy Me. And my teacher thought it was a good idea if I sang it as well. So he
just
kind
of threw that on you last minute?
Threw it on me last minute. Set up the microphone, so
Thanks
I didn't
for
really
the
have a
heads
choice. Just would have looked awkward if I didn't sing, you know. But I sang, which is a really hard song to sing just in and of itself. But I got through it, and I just knew that this was it. So I, the next couple of years, I started writing and pursuing music, and God just continued to open up doors, and doors like American Idol that I had no idea he would open, but he did, and here I am years later, so crazy.
We got to get you in that movie. I can only imagine that, the movie.
That would be awesome.
Come on now.
My wife was interested. She never really, we never really got connected with the right person, but she was wanting to try out for Bart's wife in the movie.
Or any play. Or any
But okay,
or any part.
Because people have to understand that's not like Bart in the movie. Like it's Bart's not playing Bart.
Correct.
Because that would have been really weird.
That would have been pretty weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have been able to do a show.
Yeah,
like
that'd have been really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Never touring with Mercy Me ever again. Well, that's cool. All right, so, have you pursued acting and
I
going
did
into
some
that
modeling
world?
and acting back
Yeah.
in the day, and so my agency was actually casting that movie. So I was like, hey, this is so cool. Yeah.
Next time they do a
I
movie
Can Only
based
Imagine
off of
2.
yeah.
I'm definitely going to be in that.
The way Christian movies are going, there's guaranteed to be a sequel.
There will be a sequel.
Yeah. So I Can Only Imagine was like the first song you ever kind of started singing and playing, and you kind of grew up in the church too, right? I mean, Christian music has always been a part of your life.
Yeah, whenever I could make decisions on the music, I would listen to Christian music, and I just loved it. Actually grew up listening to WFM, believe it or not, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Yeah, I just loved it. I loved that there was more to it than just something to tap your foot to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really glad that things worked out the way they did, because going on a show like American Idol, there's no telling where you're going to wind up, but I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, you had a lot of different avenues after American Idol. You could have went in the mainstream music world, but you decided to stick with Christian and where your faith was leading you. Was that an easy decision, or did you wrestle with that for a little while?
I definitely wrestled, more just with knowing what God wanted for me.
Yeah.
I knew that I was equipped to do the Christian music industry more so than mainstream, just because that's what I was familiar with. But going on a mainstream show like Idol, I was like, man, does that mean he's opening doors for me to go that way?
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember asking God, like, hey, you're going to have to make it obvious, because I just want to make the right decision here. So whenever I started writing in the studio, the first couple songs we wrote were You Are and Never Gone, which are the first 2 singles I released to Christian radio. So it became very obvious and apparent that this was it, and I was so thrilled about that. So yeah.
Yeah. And not only did you kind of get this huge platform in your music career while on Idol, you met Annie that same year too, right?
I did, yeah.
Dude, that's a big year for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we met. I was rehearsing for the American Idol tour that was going to happen later that summer, and she was looking for a place out in LA. So we met and hit it off, and it was like God kind of handed her over on a silver platter. It's like, so what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I kind of want to travel and I want to do ministry. And I was thinking, that's what I do. So that's really cool. It's just really neat the way it all panned out. And here we are, what was that, 5 years?
Yeah.
Almost 5 years later. So it's crazy. God's good.
Was it the beautiful vocals? Was it the hair? What was like, oh, I have to get to know Colton.
I can actually say I liked him before I ever heard him sing or saw his hair. He was wearing a hat that night, and we weren't at his show.
That's true. She didn't know who I was.
So it was honestly his like heart and just, yeah, I guess in personality too. Like we just had a lot in common. We talked about a lot of Christian music and things that we grew up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but
Talked about a lot of Switchfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff you grew up on, like Switchfoot was one of your like bands you grew up on, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love Switchfoot. Still love them.
That year too, that was my first year of marriage. I got married in October of 2011, and we were a little bit behind on the American Idol thing. So like the first season we legitimately watched was season 11.
That's awesome.
And so like you were on my TV, like my first year of marriage in my house. I'm just trying to figure this whole thing out. So it's just like
It's a big year.
yeah, it
That's
was a big
awesome.
year. Like yeah, my wife and I were like, where have we been for the past 11 seasons? Why
That's
are we just
amazing.
now watching Idol? And then like 5 seasons later, it's gone.
I was the opposite. I watched up until I was on, and then I couldn't watch it anymore. It was just like it just hit too close to home. I was like, I can't suffer with these people any longer.
What was that? Was that motivating or discouraging getting eliminated from the show? Did that propel you and make you want to do more, or were you like, was there a moment where you went, I don't know if I'm cut out for this?
Oh man, no, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I was bummed at the timing. Just when you're never in the bottom 3, and then all of a sudden you're in the bottom 3, and then oh by the way, you actually got eliminated tonight. It was like, oh bummer. I didn't expect it to end so soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was so ready to go out and start writing, and I did. I did the little press run and immediately started writing, and that's when You Are Never Gone kind of came to be, and was just ready for what the future looked like and what God had for me, and it was great, but it was quick. It was really fast.
Yeah.
But, loved it.
You got to go back on the finale. You were one of the only ones who got to sing your song on the finale, which was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened or who worked that out, but it was really, really cool.
I had Danny Goki on the show, and he's like, they put me in some medley and had me doing some crazy dance. I'm like, I like to dance, but this is not like how I dance. And he's like, he said he just felt out of place, but you got to do your own song.
What's so funny is I feel like anyone who does Idol is going to feel out of place at one point or another. When I was on the show, they had me doing the country songs. And it was me and this girl named Skylar Lane who actually was wanting to do country, and there wasn't a country guy. So I was the next best thing.
So you're from Tennessee, so
you're from Tennessee, so you must have some type of
Right.
accent. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. But yeah, Islands in the Stream all the way. I still get people like, man, I love when it's like,
That was interesting to see like the show come to an end, and now I hear there's possibly a reboot in the make.
I've heard that.
How do you feel about this? Do you think it should just be done and left alone?
I think they should wait longer. I do. The thing about American Idol is I think they can always make money off doing that, and in a TV show like that, I think it's a business, so they're thinking about how can we make money. So I mean, from the business side, I get it, but just as like a classy like move, I thought the way they went out was really classy. I thought it was cool, having everyone back and doing it that way. But yeah, I would give it a couple more years.
Yeah,
but that's just me personally though. But I don't know.
Feels a
What do I know?
bit too soon. Yeah,
It does.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on for how many seasons? 16, 15, 16?
Yeah.
And then to wait a year or two just to reboot
Hey, we're
it.
back.
Yeah,
Psych.
it's like, I don't know. Give it a few years.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into this record, man. This is your third project, and this is kind of a cool idea because the album is laid out with this whole idea of the mind and then the body and the spirit. So before we jump into any specific song, why did you get to this point? Like, what is the meaning behind sectioning out the album that way?
Yeah, man, I think just of all the things that I've done, I really like concept records. I enjoyed them as a kid, but as an artist now, I love that I get to channel that in this way. But I feel like this was a chance just to dive deeper into me and figure out new things about me. But then at the same time, compare that with what God's Word says about me. So just the whole theme of identity, I think we're at a really pivotal point, just as a church body and even as a nation, just trying to figure out who we are and why we're here and what gives us purpose. So I just was kind of not really journaling, but journaling in song form about all of that. And then to split it into the mind, the body, and the spirit just allowed me to dive deeper and to hopefully bring some clarity to this idea. So the mind, like, I just want to challenge the listener to start thinking about this concept, and in the body, just to challenge them to rise up and to be the person God made them to be, because no one can be them better than themselves.
Yep.
And then the spirit, It's just a chance for them to hear what God has for them. And being in this industry or in any industry, it's really easy to fill your schedule. Being busy is perceived as a good thing. And as far as, our earthly brains, technically, yes. But when we're constantly busy and we're not listening to what God has for us, we're going to miss what God has for us. It's like in our prayer life. If we're the ones doing all the talking, we're going to miss it, right?
Yep.
So, there are a couple songs that just talk about, like, just being still and listening. That was really a big one for me to learn, and still learning. And now being married, just prioritizing and realizing that, hey, ministry doesn't come before my wife. My wife and I are number one ministry, and then this gift that God has given me to preach about Him, that's secondary, and just figuring out what that looks like, and still figuring it out, baby. I'm not perfect at it yet, as you know. But yeah, it's just been a really cool journey, just of self-discovery, and then hopefully it will encourage the listener to go through that same journey as well.
My wife last year, she's super busy all the time. She's a go-getter, man. She's got her own business, and then she's just a go-getter. But last year she said 2016 was her year of saying no, because she was so busy. And she's like, I feel like I have not had time to just sit and spend with God. And she's like, some people might not get it, but I'm going to say no a lot this year. And I used to, because I'm a night guy, and I'm the night guy here at Way FM, and I'm typically a night owl. I would usually sleep in, but I would wake up and I'd see her sitting in the bed early in the morning, just reading and praying and studying, whereas before she would be like feet hit the ground going 90 miles an hour. And she said, man, just taking those moments and maybe saying no to some things that, are important, but just not at this moment, it really drew her closer to God, and she felt like she heard more from God in that period than ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a reminder that God often speaks in a small, still voice. And if you're going 90 miles an hour, you're not going to hear it.
Right. That's exactly right. It's so funny. We were just out on the road with 10th Avenue North, and Mike Donahue said something that was so great. He said, if I say no to something, it allows me to say yes to something else.
Yeah.
So he's like, in this industry, like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's going out for a coffee with a writer, or if it's a writing session, or if there's something going on with my family, then I need to say no to that thing and say yes to my family, because it allows me to say yes to my family. And it's just a really great way to look at this quote-unquote job, So
Yeah, I think we can all get there, where you're just so consumed with life that you don't have the time to spend with God, even though that's something we say is important. Oftentimes our life dictates otherwise, that's not the first thing we do. And that's even something I'm learning, that my wife is showing me, that, that was the first thing she did to start her day. And oftentimes the first thing I do is roll over and check Instagram or Facebook and see what emails I missed, But just prioritizing that in your head, it's such a helpful thing.
Yeah.
You said earlier that this album, Identity, it was a fun album, and I'm guessing like life is just fun for you right now, and that's kind of what poured into the music.
Yeah, it's a new season, new chapter. Learning a lot, obviously, with marriage and all that stuff, but it has been so fun. This album is so different musically than the other two that I've done. If you know my music at all, I tend to be more in the rock vein, which I still love and enjoy, and we will still bring that live. But this record just kind of took shape and went into more this aggressive pop thing that we love just as much. But it's fun. It's a little more lighthearted. It's not as serious. But man, we're just kind of in celebratory mode, I think. Just what God's done, and just living in that instead of trying to point a finger, I guess. But yeah, we've really enjoyed. We just got done with rehearsals, so we're so excited to play these songs for you guys.
The cover is this big giant fingerprint that's been projected on you.
Yeah.
That's not your real fingerprint, is it?
It's not.
Because you might want to get LifeLock if it is.
Yes. The thought actually didn't cross my mind, but it crossed some other people who were involved in the creative process, and they were kind of like, as cool as that would be, it would also be a little dangerous. So Yeah,
we put
they
somebody
decided not
else's
to.
fingerprint on there, or just make one up. I don't know.
I have no idea whose fingerprint that is. So
Whoever they are, I hope they've got LifeLock. Their identity might be stolen.
it could be yours.
It could be yours. Well, let's jump into the second track on the album. It's the title track, Identity. What's the story behind this song?
Yeah, it's kind of just going on what I talked about as the concept as a whole. The first line is in the song is, "We won't be told who we are by the nation or the stars." So it's taking what the world says you are with a grain of salt and going to Scripture. Scripture says we are the chosen, we are royalty, we are His children, we've been set free. But knowing that we're also made in the image of Christ, it's just a reminder that, hey, give yourself a little credit, and at the same time, like, you don't have to morph into what the world tells you. It's just super important. And like I said, world's throwing a lot at us right now. So just go to Scripture and compare. That's important with anything. Yeah. But now's a really important time to do that.
I think, too, as guys, we often put our identity in what we do.
Yep.
Like, we're connected to our job in a way that it defines who we are. And if we lose that, or if we fail at that, that just changes us. I mean, such a great reminder that your identity is not found in what you do. It's found in who Jesus is.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
Man, okay, so you guys dated for a while, right? You dated for how many? 3 years?
3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years?
Yeah.
I feel like, because I dated my wife for 7. We met in high
Wow.
school. We were high school sweethearts.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we dated for 7 years. I wanted to make sure I could afford marriage before I just jumped into it.
Smart.
Yeah, I didn't want to be living with mom and dad.
Understandable.
But, yeah. But I feel like dating is kind of where you learn what you have in common, but then marriage is where you learn your differences. And
that is a really good insight.
and for me, I realized when I got married that I knew this, but I realized even to another level. My wife is a planner. Like, she is like, everything has to have a plan, and I'm more like, go with the flow. I'm like, so imagine what figuring out where you're going to eat for dinner is like in our car. My wife is looking to me to make a plan, and I'm like, well, whatever you want, honey. It's just whatever. And she's like, no, we have to know. We have to. Anyway, so what was that moment? Have you discovered a difference that you were just polar opposites of each other in?
It is exactly the opposite for us.
Oh,
I'm
you're
more
the
go with
planner.
flow. He's more planner. If a plan changes, he
But
doesn't take
I
it
feel
well.
like as a guy, it's a little more dangerous because I want to make sure that she's happy with where we're eating.
Yes.
So it's like I'm able to like make the decision. It's like, all right, sometimes it's not always the best decision, but I can make a decision.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that she's happy with the decision. But sometimes she's like, I don't know, just pick something. I'm like, red flag.
Yes. Are either of you picky eaters?
Yes, I am.
You're the picky eater.
Yep.
So it makes sense for you to choose.
Yes.
Because I'm not a picky eater, my wife is. So it makes sense for her to choose. But
Yeah.
then she gets frustrated when I don't choose. And when I do, it's like, oh, I don't want that. It's like you're just
That's
looking
exactly
for the
right.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I feel like I can normally find something on the like
In the
I've
middle.
learned to be not near as picky as I used to be. Like if she wants sushi, I'm not a big sushi guy. I'll get the teriyaki chicken. Like that's a safe bet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I can normally find something, and I've been branching out here lately.
Yeah.
Indian and Thai food, and
Mhm.
she's blowing my mind with new food, and it's great.
More culture.
But yeah, we're getting better at that for sure.
We are
Yeah.
finding that middle ground.
Yeah. It's hard too because she came from California, which you can go to California and eat healthy so easily.
Really?
Yes, so
Oh,
easy. It's just really great salad places.
Well, a salad's a salad. Like, how
Like
good can a
fresh.
salad be?
There's a difference.
Okay.
There is.
I trust you on that.
But here, the food is so good, but it is so not healthy for you.
We fry everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So finding a spot that's like, okay, we want good food, but we don't want to feel like taking a nap after we eat lunch. So where do we find that? And listeners, if you know of a place, please let us know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like, so that's been harder as well. Is like, all right, let's find a good lunch spot. So anyway.
Has a marriage made you healthier? Because I heard, and I even brought you some Twizzlers today. I
You
heard
did.
that candy
you.
is constantly in your hand. That any candy Colton Dixon will devour. Which I'm curious how you keep that figure eating so much candy.
I thank God for my metabolism. Not near enough. Man, what's so funny is like I've always been like a sweet tooth, but more on the candy side than like a chocolate side. But Annie never really had a ton of candy in the house. So like we'll get like, oh man, the Scooby snacks. Like, have you ever had the Scooby snack gummies? They're just, the texture is just so good.
I like the Haribo gummy bears.
Those are
the
really
Scooby
good
snacks
too.
are great, but those gummy bears,
The gummy
are my
bears are so
kryptonite.
good. I just love how chewy. Anyway, I can go on a long time about those. But what's so funny is she's just not used to having it. So like, we'll be a day in, and like 3/4 of the Scooby snacks are gone, and I'm like, wait, I've had one bag. Where did they go? And she's like, why, you know,
So good.
why do we buy them if not to eat them? You know, just like, it's hilarious.
Oh, you got to get her
One
own
whole
Scooby
bag.
snacks. You
Yeah,
gotta get
I'm
your
gonna start
own.
buying
Gotta
her
get my
own
own
box,
box.
and whenever
I
I,
did-
have mine a week later,
Yeah.
just be like, no.
I did bring you 2 packs of Twizzlers, so there you go. You're welcome to
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
to enjoy.
I'll have these in a week.
Not trying to cause any marriage disputes. You can have your own candy over there, Annie. Jeez. All That Matters is the lead song off this record. What's the story behind it?
Yeah, we read in Colossians 3:11, it says, in this new life, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, a Gentile, barbaric, uncivilized, slave, or free. Christ lives in all of us, and that's all that matters. So whenever I read that, I was like, man, I just love the way he summed it up. It says, it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. If you've got God living inside of you, Christ living inside of you, that's truly all that matters. So we just kind of reflected on that verse. And like I said, it's just a beautiful reminder that no matter what's weighing you down, just think on that, and it'll get you through.
Yeah.
So,
Since this single and this album has come out, you've got a lot of mainstream publicity. I mean, ESPN, Huffington Post, Fox News. I mean, this record, this song in particular, has given you a chance really to go into a whole new world, this whole new platform, and where you get to share your faith. Has that been nerve-wracking, or has that been like a cool opportunity for you, where you're on a different platform talking about Jesus?
personally, I always try and be sensitive. That not everyone believes the way I do. I don't know. I found that approach to my beliefs is a lot more widely accepted than trying to shove my ideas down someone's throat,
Sure.
which is what most people do.
Yeah.
No matter what you believe. But yeah, it's just been so cool. Getting to go on the gosh, I can't remember what it's called. The AOL. I did a deal with AOL Build, where they have a live audience in New York City, and we just talk about the record and talk about, what inspired me to do the record and all this stuff. And what I love about God is that whenever you ask him for something, like, he'll give you an answer, but in that form, even when I was on Idol, I just remember thinking and knowing not to be preachy and to wait for someone to ask the right questions. And I love it when someone asks the right questions, because it allows me just to be me and to let God shine through that. And it's never for a hidden agenda. It's just, hey, you asked the right question. But I just love getting to do that. It's coming from a real place. And seeing the crowd react, and I know that not all of them had the same beliefs, but it at least gives them insight to, like, hey, there's actually an easier way to do this thing called life, and it's really great. So here, let me share about it with you for a second. And if you don't want it, that's your choice. He gave us all that choice, but it's really great if you do choose it. That kind of thing. So I love getting to do that. And yeah, there's always this weird thing of like, well, if he's a Christian artist, then he should stay in the Christian world. It's like, man, it's like if my music ever was to branch out of this, awesome.
Yeah.
I think God's just using that to reach people who'll never set foot in a church or turn on Christian radio even. So I'm really excited for that. I don't think I'm going to be changing my footing, by any means, but if it branches out, more power to it.
To be a light in the dark world, you actually have to go into the dark world.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You're not going to shine bright when you're surrounded by other lights. You have to go into a dark place. And I think that approach and living out your faith in a way draws people in. They're going to see a difference in you. And I know that we've heard that since Sunday school, people are going to know that you're different because of how you live your life. But I think now even more so than ever, that is so true, because most of the time what is publicized are people barking and screaming what they believe, and that I don't think that's effective.
Right. I completely agree. Completely agree. I think it's less about pointing a finger.
Yeah.
It's so funny, man. To love someone, God says to love someone where they're at. That's what he did with me. He didn't put a bunch of rules before coming to him. He just said, "Hey, just come to me," and then everything else will start changing around you. What if we took that approach towards someone who didn't have the same beliefs? It's like, "Hey, I'm gonna listen to what you have to say. I'm gonna love on you regardless." But then when the timing's right, when he opens the door, I'm gonna shed a little insight to how I think. They're gonna be a lot more open to hearing what you have to say than if you just beat down the door and start barking at them.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
And not only has this album been so publicized for you, but your entire marriage has been too. I mean, Stinking People magazine covered your wedding. What was that like? Because I mean, I got to imagine like having cameras and people writing articles about you, and you know what your wedding was like and what married life is like. That's got to be a I don't know. I don't know if I'd want people out of my business like that. You know?
It's it's sometimes it's more weird than others.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of cool the way all of those interviews kind of came about. We heard that people was interested in the wedding, and we were like, "Wow, really? That's really cool." And Annie was like, "Wow, that's awesome. Let's do it. Let's do it." You know, it's so cool. So we did it, and then I remember having the interview. Some of you may have seen it about waiting for marriage. That's extremely personal, and that's
right.
Yeah, that's just a personal decision for anyone. But just the way it came about, we were in the interview for the wedding, and she's like, "Hey, what makes the honeymoon special?" And we're like, "Well, we waited, and that's ultimately the thing that's going to make this special." And she was so intrigued by that, the lady doing the write-up, and just turned into this whole thing. And again, not trying to force our beliefs or opinions on anything toward anybody. It's just the way we did it.
Yeah.
And we have scripture to back it up, you know? But yeah, it was just so interesting. What do you think, babe? Having our lives out in the public eye for everyone to see and read.
It's not a reality show, but it's not far from it. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of saw it as just like an opportunity that, like, if this is a platform that God wants to use to encourage young couples, people who want to get married one day, just whatever it is, like, then I'll, like, God, if you want to use this, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to pray that everything goes well with the wedding and everything turns out as we thought, and it did. And God was just so awesome. His hand was all over that situation. And I remember before that interview, I just took some time to, like, read the Bible. I just felt like there was something unique about that interview. We were at home. It was actually after we'd gotten back from the honeymoon. And then that whole thing came about. And so, yeah, we were thankful that that got to be used, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
I envision some like People magazine at your wedding, because I watch a lot of wrestling. I'm a geek, but I envision like the backstage interview, like right before you're about to walk down the aisle, like, okay, 5 minutes before the match is about to happen. What do you think is gonna happen?
That is so funny.
What was it like? What was it like having them at this ceremony? Were they kind of out of the way, or were they like all involved in what was going on?
What was actually great, and it was a stipulation of mine, honestly.
Yeah.
When I first heard they were interested, I'm like, I do not want our wedding to be a circus. Like, it's between you and I and no one else.
Yeah.
I was very firm on that. I didn't want to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, it's actually just a phone interview, and it's after the ceremony at your reception. So while you're eating, we'll put them on speaker, and you can do it there. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not bad. So they were actually really great to work with. You hear of an organization like People magazine, and you think, oh man, I bet that was crazy. And it's actually really sweet and well handled, and they were great. But yeah, it was still a little stressful just thinking like, okay, I wanted to eat away from everyone. That was just important to me because I knew we weren't gonna have time, at all any other point that night. So we went downstairs and put them on speaker. It was just great to reflect over what just happened, even for us. I would have wanted to do that regardless if they were on the other
Yeah.
line. So it was really cool.
And jumping back into the album, the song "Down" is a song that you've heard a story from too, as someone has responded to your music, right? Even though this record is fairly new.
What's so cool is that this music is very different. So when we released "Down" as a pre-release track, you're always a little nervous. Whenever some of my favorite artists are changing their sound, I'm like, oh no, they've been doing something that I love. Why are they changing it? But it was just so encouraging to see the great feedback from Down. It's honestly more musically than a story, but it's really aggressive. There's this song that I just cannot remember. If I remember, I'll say it later. But I heard it on mainstream radio, and I just thought, man, that's a really cool combination. It's like folky, but it includes like these really aggressive synths and dubstep stuff, and I'm like, wow. So when we first started writing the song, it started as that. It's like a folky. David Crowder could have cut this song. Like, it fit him to a T. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not me. So as we finished writing the song, I was like, what if we do this? And it just turned into this really cool new creation of a song. It's about just being at your weakest moment and then seeing God's love pour down on you. Really simple song. I was a wreck. I was shattered and bruised. You tore down the dark and your love broke through. Toby wrote a song about love breaking through. Yeah. Just really cool that God's love will pierce through the darkest place. So we wrote a song about that, but musically it just took really cool form, and people have been responding to that, and that was super encouraging as an artist. Just again, because the sound is so different. So I'm really glad you guys are digging that song.
So you're like bearing your soul, and you're like, I hope somebody likes this.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you don't, just keep it to yourself. Like,
that's
don't
right.
Say
That's right.
If you don't
ain't
like
got
it,
something nice to say, just don't say it.
You just mentioned David Crowder. You pulled an amazing prank on him at Winter Jam, dressing up like Kenny Rogers' Arctic Fox.
Man,
that was awesome.
It was. That's probably the most proud I've ever been of a prank. I did the Batman suit for Building 429, and that was pretty good, but it hit a little closer to home with David, with Kenny Rogers. But yeah, we had the idea. He always brings Kenny Rogers up, and he's always sitting in the same spot every night for his entire set. So I'm like, okay. It's like I never want to do a prank that messes up the show or messes up the musicians or whatever. So I was like, this could be really good. So we took Kenny down and set him to the side, and I stood in the stillest form I could be with an Arctic Fox mask on, and I had gloves and feet as well. It was just
it was
golden.
awesome.
It was golden.
You gotta go see it. It was a Facebook Live you did on your Facebook page.
That's right. It's so good.
You got pranked once really good too, and Annie was in on it. Because there's a point in the show where Annie comes out and sings a song with you, right?
Yeah.
And you were on tour with Finding Favor, and one of the guys in Finding Favor kind of threw on a blonde wig, and
he didn't just throw on a blonde wig. He got me so good. I used to, this last tour we didn't have the time to do it, but normally I take a minute out of the set and just talk up how amazing my wife is. And then I'm like, and you guys are going to get a chance to meet her. She's going to sing this next song, and they always go crazy. It's so fun. But instead of Annie, out walks Dustin from Finding Favor, their bass player, and he is wearing an extra small women's t-shirt from my merch table. So his gut is hanging out. He's wearing a blonde wig, but he still has a beard. It was just golden.
You talk about pulling pranks that don't mess up the music. That messed up the music, I'm sure, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, here's a serious moment. Song that's meant so much to so many people, and a bearded lady walks out. But they were trying to get me to sing the song, and I'm like, there's no way I'm singing this right now.
You're like, get my wife out here. I'm not singing this with you right here.
I know, I did. I finally was like, where's my wife? But that was probably the best prank someone's done on me.
Annie, you were in on this too, right? I mean, you had to play a part.
I did. I mean, I basically let them do it.
Yeah. She was going to sing from backstage, and Dustin was going to
lip sync out front.
But I couldn't do it.
Dude, last night of tour, that's where most of the pranks happen, right?
Yeah, if you're ever looking at tour dates,
go to the last one.
Yeah, you might want to circle another one as well to get the regular experience, but you might want to circle the last one as well. Yeah. It's always good.
Yeah. Now, I heard, too, that you love playing games on the road, that you're a gamer, like video games.
Yeah, I go through seasons.
Yeah.
But this last tour was the season of video games. It was
Just recently?
Yeah.
Because my season of video games ended when I got married. I haven't turned on my Xbox, I don't think, like once since I've been married.
Congratulations.
Yeah. My wife was like, why are you playing that? You could be pulling the weeds in the yard. Go do something else.
My wife is nodding. What's so great about just doing this for a living is what's categorized under tour expenses. So we have a wardrobe case that has a TV in it, which is just great whenever you're in the venue all day and there's nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought out the PlayStation, and at the beginning of the tour, I got a VR. It is the most crazy thing I've ever experienced as related to games. But it was so funny bringing in various artists, including David Crowder. He was gold, just the funniest person to watch. Because at first he just didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then once he got it, he's like, "This is crazy," you know. But even just like the scary games, oh man, priceless. Mike Donaghy screaming at the top of his lungs when a little ghost girl pops out at him. Just like the funniest things. But man, that brought so much enjoyment to
comic books, video games, Marvel. I mean, you're like a comic book geek, right?
I'm a nerdy guy.
I heard you say earlier you got life-size Batman in your house right now.
I do, and I put on the suit every once in a while.
You just wear it around your house?
Maybe. You know, would you judge me if I said yes? Yeah, I don't know why. I just love that stuff, man. I do.
We were having lunch with Colton before this interview, and I felt like we should just change the interview to a Marvel podcast because
totally could.
I think we could talk for hours about that, or you could talk for hours about that.
Oh,
I could listen.
I could. Really excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's gonna be good. Yeah, I just love that stuff. And I don't know why. I guess I just grew up on the whole superhero idea thing and loved Batman when I was growing up. And my dad works for the post office, so he would come home with tons of cardboard. And he would build the Batcave just out of cardboard, and it was
awesome.
Legit.
That's awesome.
It had everything but a working computer screen. You know, it was just like the best. But I've just always loved it and never really grew out of it.
I can't say much. I just watched the Power Rangers movie. I can't really.
How was it?
Can't really.
It was all right.
You know, when I was a kid, Power Rangers was like my jam. I took Taekwondo just to be a Power Ranger. Yeah. I was like, Mom, you got to sign me up for Taekwondo. I want to be a legit Power Ranger.
Can I wear a red suit?
Yeah, I wanted to be the Green Ranger.
The green, sorry.
He had that cool little shield thing on. But no, I'm sitting in the movie, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, reliving my childhood. And then part of me is like, I'm 30 years old. Like, this isn't cool anymore.
This isn't cool anymore.
Yeah.
That is funny.
It was kind of nostalgic, but then also like, man, this is really dumb. I can't believe I'm sitting here watching this.
That's amazing.
Well, I guess that kind of leads us to, in a roundabout way, another song on the record, Warriors.
Yeah.
So there's this thing at the beginning. It sounds like chanting.
Yes.
Is that like a Samoan type thing? I heard that there might be some influence on this song.
Yeah, so technically I think it's Fijian, but we were in Samoa for Thanksgiving this last year, and there's a tradition over in those islands called a haka. And what they do is the men run in, and I didn't really know what to expect. So it was our last day there, right? Mm-hmm. And they performed a haka for us, and it was several different cultures of it, which is so cool. But they run in nothing but grass skirts, these huge dudes. So I was extremely intimidated, and they're like a foot or two away from me. So it was just like right there in your face. But they performed this haka, which is just a call to the young men of the tribe to become warriors for Christ. That's really what it is. And of course, I didn't understand what they were saying. So I was just like, wow, this is extremely intimidating and very violent and aggressive, and it's awesome. That's what was going through my mind. But afterwards, someone was kind of telling me what they were saying, and I had already written the song called Warriors, and I'm like, light bulb? That would be awesome. So then I started asking around, did anyone get audio or video of the haka they performed? And someone did.
So that's from that night?
From the haka that Annie
awesome.
and I were at. Gosh, I can't remember the exact translation, but it's literally calling the men to be men of honor, and courage and men of Christ. And it was just so cool the way it works out. But that's what that song is all about.
Like the
so
Samoan Courageous movie.
Samoan Courageous movie. That's right. That's exactly right.
Make that into
It would look a
film.
little different than the American
Probably,
one. Yeah.
probably so. Probably so. The Spirit instrumental, there's a verse at the end, 2 Timothy 1:7, which is my favorite verse in the entire Bible. So I'm
Just
listening
for
to
you.
it, and I was like, this is awesome. And it really holds special meaning to my heart, because I remember I used to get like terrified of thunderstorms. And my mom would just say this verse over me all the time. And so it became my favorite verse. And then I hear it in the Spirit in one of these songs, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So what significance does this verse have to the Spirit?
Man, whenever I was doing all of these instrumentals, I'll try and keep the story short, but craziest thing is when we were doing the music video for Through All of It on my second record, there was this guy named Ben who had been through cancer several times. He's in remission now, which is awesome, but he hasn't hit 30 yet. Just an amazing guy, but he composes music for a living. So just getting to talk with him about that. He has worked on a couple Marvel movies, which is so cool. We geeked out about that. But I was like, hey, Ben, would you be interested in composing some music for my next record? And he was like, dude, I would love that. Your music's been, a really big light in my life. And so we worked on these instrumentals together. So in each one, we really just wanted to dive into Scripture and what Scripture says about these topics. So in the Spirit, we list the fruits of the Spirit, and then at the end of it, we say that verse: God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power,
Love and a sound mind. I know that one.
Yeah, you do. But I just really wanted to bring out those key verses for these topics, just to, remind people, like, hey, this is what God says about this. I know you've been listening to what I'm saying about these things, throughout this record, but I just want to remind you that this is where I'm pulling from, and this is the truth. So I just thought it was a great way to set the stage for all of these sections, and it's so cool that I got to do it with my buddy Ben. But yeah, that's kind of why we did it that way, and we were just gonna have them as instrumentals. But then I'm like, is there a way to make this more clear? And I'm like, hold on. So I came up with that, and it was awesome.
Well, thank you for dropping that verse in there.
You're welcome.
Maybe you feel like you were talking to me, like in the middle of the record. I was like, Colton's thinking of me. Man, you talk about composing with Ben. Well, I'm no Ben, but there was a song I was a part of that you recorded that you don't even know. That it was in a very small, very minute way. You had a song on your album Messengers called "Let Them See You."
Yeah.
I was in the JJ Weeks band as we were demoing that song.
Stop.
Yeah. Now, I'm the drummer, and what you'll notice on that track is there's no percussion. So
you were taking a nap while they did that one.
That's why it's like, I didn't really have anything to do with it, but it was kind of cool to see. Like, I think I still have in my email like the first original demos.
I would love to hear that
of that song. I'd have to dig through and find it, but yeah, we were demoing. I left the band short time after that, but we were demoing that song when I left, which was kind of cool.
I have to give it to Scotty and JJ for that song. Whenever I first heard it, I think at the time you guys had put out the thing and like weren't sure what to do with it. So Scotty was like, "Hey man, there's this song that I wrote with JJ, and it's just."
I left before that record was finished. But
gotcha.
But after seeing it and then hearing you perform it, it was just kind of a cool moment.
What an anointed song, yeah, great song.
So I'm wondering where my writer's credit is and how much money you're going to give me today. How much is that worth for the drummer who didn't play on that?
Well, in today's age, probably cents on the dollar.
Yeah. What do you have in your pocket? That'll work. Whatever.
Nothing. Lint. I have a bag of Twizzlers.
Yeah, I want Twizzler before you leave. The Other Side is a really deep song that has a really deep story behind it. Man, it's, Annie, unfortunately, about your brother who passed away. What's the story behind this song?
Yeah, you can interrupt me at any point. But when I first met Annie, her and her family had just gone through the loss of her brother a few months prior, and you never would have known it. Talking with them or spending time with them, they just had such a joy and an understanding about it. There's a verse in 1 Thessalonians 4. It says, But I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you sorrow as others who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who sleep in Jesus. So it's just this idea that, like, God is comforting us in this this topic of loss. But when you think about what Jesus did for you, he not only died for you, but he also defeated death so that we didn't have to fear it. So they just stand in the victory side. It's like, man, we've got nothing to fear, and we are looking forward to seeing Dylan again on the other side. And it was just a beautiful thing to witness. The revelation that they had over that, which gave me a new revelation over that as well. But yeah, not only were they talking that way, but they had to live it out. Mm-hmm. So someone coming from that kind of place just has so much more impact when they speak about it. Like her dad spoke on that when we were in Samoa. And just to see just the Spirit fall on that place, and people, their pastor had just passed, and now the wife of that pastor taken over this church. And it was just amazing to see all of these people get it. Mm-hmm. It was just amazing. But yeah, I'm sure you have more to add, or maybe not. I don't know. But it was just amazing to witness, honestly.
Yeah, Annie, what's that like for you, just out of such tragedy, to see a song like this speak into people's lives and remind them of a hope in Jesus?
Oh, I'm so excited for how I just believe it will help people, because that is the hope that people need. A lot of what you hear is, this is the end. It's never going to be the same. You'll always have a hole in your heart. But really, it's not the end. That's why that scripture says, don't sorrow like those who have no hope, mm-hmm. because we do have hope. So we don't have to sorrow as the world sorrows. We have this hope in Jesus. We are going to see them again. They're happy. If you're ever missing someone who's in heaven, just think, I wonder what they're doing right now, because they're partying with Jesus, Mm-hmm. So yeah. There's just so much to look forward to, and just maintain that hope. And there's times when it's sad and when it's hard, but just always go back to, but I'm looking forward, and I know what's in front of me, and I know what Jesus did. And yeah,
that's that unexplainable peace that surpasses all understanding. I mean, mm-hmm. when something tragic like that happens, you can obviously have questions about your faith, but man, when you cling to God, he does really give you that hope. Mm-hmm. And I love that this song is kind of a manifestation of that it's out of this tragedy bringing hope to so many other people.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you took the time to talk about the stories behind these songs and to let us into your life a little bit. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. It's been a blast.